You ever seen a cop pull drugs out from under a car seat and smirk like he just found buried treasure, only to find out minutes later the whole thing's been caught in 4K? Yeah, that happened. And the part he didn't see coming? The man he tried to frame wasn't just anyone. He was the man the system quietly fears the most. A man who knows how it works and how to burn it down with the truth. Let me back up a sec. It was a Thursday, hot, humid, the kind of day where the air feels heavy even in the shade. Outside Lincoln Elementary, the school bell rang, and kids spilled out like a busted dam. Amid the chaos, a beat-up Silver Crown Vic pulled up to the curb. Behind the wheel was Mr. Reuben Hayes, retired, composed, 70 years old with a shirt so white it made you squint. He tapped the steering wheel gently, waiting for his granddaughter to come out, just like he did every Thursday. And then came the sirens, 2 short blasts. Officer Todd Brenner, young, cocky, buzz-cut with mirrored shades. He rolls up slow, hand already on his belt like he's preparing for something more than a traffic stop. Reuben glanced over, nodded politely, didn't flinch. But Brenner? He walked up like he'd already made up his mind. "License and registration, sir." Reuben handed them over without a word. His granddaughter, Lila, just 8 years old, sat in the back seat watching it all, clutching her purple backpack like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Then came the so-called safety check. Brenner asked Reuben to step out of the vehicle. No reason given, no violation cited. Reuben didn't resist. He unbuckled, opened the door, stepped out slow, dignified, like he was walking into church. And then Brenner reached under the seat and miraculously found a baggie, white powder, sealed, still warm, probably from his own pocket. "You care to explain this?" he asked, holding it like a trophy. Reuben just looked at him, calm, tired, and entirely unsurprised. But across the street, there was a kid, 16, phone in hand, filming everything. Reuben gave the kid a tiny nod, not desperation, not a cry for help, just a message. Watch closely. What Brenner didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the dashcam on his own cruiser was rolling, clean angle, clear audio. Every sneer, every racist comment, every coincidental discovery. Back at the station, the paperwork got processed fast. Too fast. Reuben was fingerprinted, booked, and held overnight. His granddaughter went home with a neighbor, scared silent. No tears, just silence. That kind of silence that builds up and cracks years later. But here's where it turns. The footage made its way to internal. Officer Marlon Givens, 15 years on the job, no stranger to the dirt, was the one assigned to review it. He watched it once, twice, then again. By the 6th time, his hands were shaking. He called in sick the next day. Not because he was sick, but because he didn't know how to show up and keep pretending nothing happened. Meanwhile, Reuben? He sat in the holding cell like a man waiting for a storm he already survived once before. He'd seen systems do worse. Hell, he'd investigated them. 30 years ago, he was part of a quiet federal task force, internal oversight, the kind of unit that doesn't make headlines but makes careers disappear. And now here he was, back in the belly of the beast, as prey. When the trial came, it should have been open and shut. Drugs found during a legal traffic stop, they said. Suspicious behavior, they added. The prosecution came in smug. The judge leaned indifferent. And Brenner sat 2 rows back in uniform, arms folded like he'd already won. But then Reuben's lawyer, young, sharp, named April Delgado, stood up and said 5 words that cracked the courtroom in half. "We have the full footage." You could hear the air shift. They played it, from start to finish. The moment the car stopped, to the moment Brenner pulled the drugs from his pocket and slid them under the seat. No one spoke. The judge leaned back. And in that silence, something snapped. Brenner didn't speak, didn't flinch. But his eyes, man, they told a story. The panic, the disbelief, the realization that he'd been undone not by a lawyer, not by a mob, but by a camera, and a man who refused to stoop low to survive. But here's the twist. Reuben didn't press charges, not against Brenner, not right away. Instead, he requested a full audit. And what they found? It wasn't just one case. It was 12 arrests. Same officer, same discovery method, same vague reports, same fabricated language. And most of those suspects? Black, brown, poor, powerless. And then something else surfaced. Old files, deleted body cam footage, internal memos marked resolved without review. At the center of it, a woman named Lorraine Maddox, director of technical forensics. Quiet, respected, feared. Turns out, she'd been scrubbing data for years, shielding officers like Brenner under the illusion of system integrity. It all unraveled. But not with riots, not with flames, just truth. Played on screens, projected on courtroom walls, read aloud in newsrooms that had no choice but to finally listen. And Rubin? He didn't stop there. He drafted a bill. Simple, direct. Called it the Hayes Act. It required all police dash cams and body cams to auto-upload to 3 independent servers. No access, no tampering, no exceptions. Within 72 hours, the footage had to be reviewed by an independent civilian panel. The media ran wild. The footage, the trial, the bill, it all went viral. And Brenner? He resigned before he was fired, disappeared into the fog of disciplinary review. Last we heard, he moved to a small town in Nevada. Still wears the same haircut. Probably still thinks he got a raw deal. But here's where it gets real cinematic. 2 weeks after the bill passed, Rubin was walking home from a late dinner. No cameras, no press, just quiet. As he turned into an alley near the corner pharmacy, 3 men stepped out. No words, no warning. The first hit knocked the wind from him. The second cracked a rib. The third knocked him against the wall, bleeding, barely conscious. They didn't take his wallet. They didn't even check his ID. They just wanted to erase him. But a voice cut through the dark. "Police, don't move." It was Marlon Gibbons. He'd followed Rubin, not because of duty, but because of something heavier. Guilt, gratitude, maybe both. He called it in, tied a belt around Rubin's arm to stop the bleeding. Didn't wait for backup. Just stayed with him, whispering, "I got you." Rubin survived. Barely. 3 broken ribs, a fractured jaw, and a story that nearly ended in silence. But here's the thing. He didn't go silent. In the final hearing, Rubin stood, bandaged, bruised, but still towering, and he said, "I didn't come here to destroy the system. I came to remind it what it promised to be." He didn't ask for revenge. He asked for memory, that this moment wouldn't be buried beneath hashtags and headlines. And the room? It stood with him. Now the Hayes Act is law in 11 states, and counting. And kids like Lila, they sleep a little easier knowing their grandfathers won't be buried by lies and uniforms. But not everything wraps up clean. Rubin never gave another interview. No press conferences, no talk shows. Just one note, left on his old recliner back home. It said, "Don't wait to speak up. Wait too long, and it costs more than silence." So now I ask you, was justice served, or did we just see enough truth to pretend things changed? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is the system broken, or just doing exactly what it was designed to? And more importantly, what would you have done if you were Rubin? Because sometimes, the only thing standing between a lie and the truth is someone who refuses to blink.